Okay, in this lecture, I'm going to talk a bit about how we might go about creating resources to support social justice. And that's really at the heart of this course. It's really what we're going to be getting you to do, the practical aspect through which you'll apply the learning that you do within this course. So what is it we're actually trying to do here? Well, I suppose we start from the position that career guidance is an educational practice. It involves educators working with students or clients to support them to develop their skills and knowledge and to take action in the world. And however you're doing career guidance, whether you're working in a classroom with school students or university students, whether you're working in a counselling kind of context, one-to-one, or whether you're working in some kind of more experiential learning context, you're still supporting learning, you're still supporting the development of skills and knowledge and the kind of building the capacity of individuals to take action in the world for themselves and to try and change and improve the world around them. So doing all of this requires educators to think about how they're going to work and what it is practically that they're going to do. We can talk about career guidance and social justice, but it's not obvious what this means when you're sitting in a counselling room across from someone having a conversation with them, or when you're faced by a class full of 16-year-olds all, wanting to know how you're going to fill the next 45 minutes of their lesson. It's not obvious, so we need help. Now, if we think about how we go about getting to the point where we're actually delivering career guidance, we might think about a range of things that are going on. So under the delivery of career guidance, there are probably resources that we're using. There might be bits of information, there might be handouts and activities that we get people to do, lesson plans that we draw on, approaches and so on. There might be, all sorts of materials that we're using to deliver career guidance. Underneath that, we have our overall pedagogy or approach to career guidance. And that's informed by how we think about justice and learning, our theories that underpin that they shape the way we actually approach what we're doing when we're engaging in educational activities. And underneath that, we all probably share some kind of worldview which is informed by social justice and some kind of critique about the way things are. So if we look at this, it's a kind of a pyramid on which different ideas are built and ultimately ends up with the delivery of career guidance. So in this course, we're asking you to create a resource to support other people in delivering it. And so you might create a resource that actually directly supports delivery. So a resource perhaps for a student to look at, supported by a career guidance professional, teacher, educator, or whatever. Or you might do something that's explaining some of the big underpinning ideas to make them more widely accessible. And that's probably more likely to be aimed as a piece of professional learning for other professionals. The problem, I think, is at the moment we've got a lot of theory in this area, but we've not got as many practical ideas about how this should work. And so what we're trying to do in this course is to try and sort of fill in some of those practical ideas. Now, the framework that we developed, so myself with Ria Thompson and Ronald Sultana, was what we call the 5 signposts towards a socially just career guidance approach. And in that, we break it down and we say that there are some things that you should do. So you should be building critical consciousness, naming oppression, questioning what's normal, encouraging people to work together, working at a range of levels. So this is much more like what we described as a sort of a pedagogy or an approach. It's at that level. It's trying to translate some of these big theoretical ideas into something that you can actually do. But actually, if you're going to go out and do this, you're probably going to need some more support. You're going to need some resources to work with. So one of the aims of this course, I think, is to encourage creativity and innovation and to support practitioners who want to engage with social justice. So we're going to get you to do some of the thinking, get you to do some of the creating, so that you can figure out how to turn some of these theoretical ideas into something that you can actually do in practice. And what's great about that is as we go on with this course and we run it year after year, we start to build up more and more ideas about what is possible and what you can do. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is we're both trying to use the creation of a resource as a way to encourage you to think through some of these ideas, but also to give us further resources that we can use to kind of go out to wider practitioners. So if we think about creating resources, there's quite a growing movement out there to create and share what are sometimes called open educational resources, or OER. And OER are freely accessible, open license, all sorts of different types of things, text, media, other digital assets that are useful to people for teaching, learning and assessing, as well as for research and other kinds of purposes. So it's about creating stuff that other people might use as well as yourself. And that's really what we're doing in this course. So the term Open Educational Resource, or OER, describes publicly accessible materials and resources that people can take, they can use, they can, what we might call remix, they can take something that you've used in one context and perhaps put it together with something else, use it in a different context. But they also potentially can download it, improve it, change it, redistribute it. Now, there are different ways for you to control how that all works, but this is the idea that you're making stuff, you're putting it out there, you're making it available to other people. And so for those of us, I think, involved in social justice, OER are a way that we can spread the word. We can engage others and increase the impact of the movement for social justice. So when we're thinking about what resources are, they might include all sorts of things: text, images, data sets, audio, video, interactive content, all sorts of stuff. And they might be, as we've said already, material aimed at students, educators, or those involved in the training of educators. They might be online resources, as well as material that's designed to be printed out or used in the classroom or counselling room in some other way. And they could be all sorts of things, and I'm just going to touch the surface with this. It could be information or fact sheets, it could be handouts, worksheets, activities, it could be whole lectures like this one. This is an open educational resource. It could be a podcast, an exercise, a reflective tool, a game, a lesson plan. All of these things you might describe as open educational resources that you're making available to others. And of course it can be many other things. You'll probably think of other things that are just as important to give to other educators. So the important thing is you're creating something which is useful to you but also useful to others. And really the possibilities are endless here. So as an example, I created a series of videos, and this came out of the pandemic. I used to give a lecture at Lillehammer, which was about career theory, a series of lectures about career theory. When the pandemic came, I couldn't go to Lillehammer, the students couldn't come to Lillehammer, so I created them as a series of videos. And I thought, rather than just keeping them for me or for the students on the course, let's make them available. I'll put them up, I put them on YouTube. I created another page that drew them all together, and I described it as a self-study course. So yes, you could study this stuff if you were at Lillehammer and you were studying the whole program, and you would probably get more out of it by doing that. But if you wanted to access these resources, they were all there. You could take it as a whole course, or you could just take the small chunks of each individual theory that I provided an example of, and you could use that. So that was an example of a sort of open educational resource that I created, and it's out there still. You can go and have a look at it. So some principles that you might want to use as you're creating resources. I think the first one is use what you have, and that's what I did in that example that I've just shared. You don't necessarily have to go out and create loads of new things. It may be just that you take what you've got, you put it together in such a way that it's available for other people to use. You want to draw on and connect to other and existing resources, so you don't have to do everything completely from scratch. There's loads of great stuff out there. If you notice in this course, as well as the lectures that we're all giving and sharing with you, there are also things that we've drawn in from other universities and other presentations. There's TED Talks, there's all sorts of things out there that we might want to use. And so you don't have to create everything. The point is to share and to share stuff around. Use a tool that you can already use rather than sort of thinking you've got to learn something new and technical. If you use Word a lot, then use Word to create your educational resource. If you're familiar with using videos, use videos. I mean, feel free to experiment and try something new. That's great, but you don't have to do that. You want to break it down into different components that can be used in different ways. So if you think about that career theory resource that I talked about, I presented it as a whole course, but I also allow people to take the individual lectures. So they might not be interested in the whole course, they might just want one of the lectures, and that's fine. And that idea of being able to break stuff down is really important. And then provide some guidance on how it should be used. A resource that you find with no information about it can be quite bewildering and difficult to use. So give people some advice on how to use it. And then you need to find a technique to make it freely available to others. And on this course, we can help you to do that. So we'll talk about what's the best way to do it. And I think one thing that is a kind of longer term bit of thinking is if you are putting resources out there and you're sharing things with people, notice what people use and what they don't use, because that will give you some really good clues about what of your resources are really resonating with people. So in this course, we're looking for a resource that explains how the ideas of social justice can inform career guidance. It could be a report, a film, a photo essay, anything else you can think of, as we've discussed. It could be theoretical or it could be practical. And to give you a rough sense, and we're not really strict about this, but a rough sense, we're expecting it to be sort of 2 to 4 pages in total. If you produce a film or a podcast or alternative format, then it's probably 2 to 4 minutes. But you might want to band together, and actually it's one of the things that we really encourage in this course is for you working together with other people. So you might work together with two people, and then you're producing 4 to 8 pages or equivalent, and so on. So collaborative projects are strongly encouraged here. So just a few examples from last year. There are links to this in the course as well. There was a really nice example where one of the students created a card sort game, which was about helping career guidance practitioners to reflect on their practice and to think about social justice in the context of their practice. There was another one which was a kind of an introduction to something that the student Robin thought was perhaps an issue that was under or poorly understood by many careers practitioners, so the issue of gender incongruence and career. And then a very nice one here that you definitely should check out, which is called Social Justice and Career Guidance, the movie. And it was a really nice way of explaining some of the basic ideas and how it might be kind of implemented in practice. So thank you. If you want to get in touch with me, there's various contact details here. I'll share these on the course as well. But I think now it's really time for you to put this into action. So through the course, through the next sort of 4 to 8 weeks, you're going to be thinking a lot. You're going to be getting really creative. And I really encourage you to kind of come up with something exciting that builds on what you do already, but also takes it forward, draws on the ideas of the course, and makes it available to a wider group of practitioners. You know, if we all do this, we're going to really enrich the practice of career guidance professionals across the world. And that's, I think, a very exciting idea. Thank you.